Arrays are one of the most used data structures in JavaScript. With an array, you can assign an almost limitless number of items to a single variable. You have learned how you might use arrays to, for instance, hold the tasks in a to-do list, to store the names of cities, create a musical playlist, and more. And once you have an array, you'll want to work with the elements inside it. For example, for the array of city names, you might want to display each city name in the array. For the array of quiz questions, you'll want to ask each question in the array one after the other. To access each item in an array, you need to get the first element and do something with it, like display it on a page or compare it with other value. Then you move to the second element and repeat those steps, then the third, and so on, until you are done processing the entire list of elements. In other words, you need to repeat the same steps for each item in the array. Does this sound familiar? In the previous lectures, you learned about loops, which repeat a set of actions over and over again until a condition is met. The for loop is often used to loop through an array, or as programmers like to say, iterate through the elements in an array. For example, say you wanted to display the names inside cities array in the console. There are 5 names in the cities array. To display each name, you'll need to run this loop 5 times. Here's an example of a for loop that runs 5 times. Before the loop runs, a counter variable I is set to 0. Each time through the loop, the I counter increments by 1. And as soon as I is no longer less than 5, the loop ends. But you can't always be sure that the array will have 5 names in it. Maybe you add 2 more cities to the list, or one has been removed from the list. But you do know that you want the loop to execute as many times as the number of cities. Do you remember how to find the number of elements in an array? Every array has a length property that returns the number of elements in that array. So you can replace the 5 here with a length property like this. Now if you add 1 or more cities to the list, the loop runs according to the number of elements inside the array. But how do you access and display each city name? Remember that elements in an array are assigned an index value or position in the array. The first element is at index 0, the second is at index 1, and so on. And the good thing is that the index value is built right into the loop. The I counter variable, which starts at 0, then increments by 1 each time through the loop, maps perfectly to the array elements. Let's dive into how this works. The for loop condition checks if I, the counter, is less than cities.length. In other words, is 0 less than 5? Yes, it is. So the loop runs. Remember, to access an element inside an array, you type the name of the array followed by square brackets, and between the brackets, include the element's index value. In this first loop iteration, the value of I is 0, so the program logs the element at index position 0. In this case, it's New York. This is the end of the first loop iteration, and I increases by 1. Now the value of I is 1, the condition is tested again. Is 1 less than 5? Yes, it is. So the loop runs again, logging the city at index position 1. This happens over and over until I is 5. Then the condition is no longer true and the loop ends.